Hello, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to today's session in which we're going to explore assignments in Ultra. As always, please feel free to ask questions at any time. You don't have to wait until the end. You can either use a chat or raise your hand and then unmute your microphone. Just give me a second here. Okay. Well, this is Fausto Pupo, Senior Educational Consultant at Anthology. And, well, let's start. I'm going to turn off my camera. I just wanted to say hi. Okay, so this is your typical Learn Ultra course. And as you can see, we're using learning modules to organize our content. And we're going to create an assignment on this sample module here. So I'm going to show you how to create, how to set up assignments as well. And then we're going to simulate the student submission, and we are going to see the grading process as well, and also what the student can see once we give them feedback. All right, so the first thing you want to do every time you want to create a new element is go to the exact place in your course where you want the new element to be. Let's put it right here at the top inside our sample module. And as you can see, the exact place where the new element will be located will turn purple. Not just the question mark here, but the whole line actually. So I'm going to click on the line and then on create, which is the first option that we see. Now we have the three categories for items and we can add. In this case, we're going to go to assessment and click on assignment. All right, so normally what we would do is type in the title or name of the assignment and then provide instructions. And for the instructions, we have the whole content editor. So in addition to text, we can add links to external resources. We could attach files that students might need for their work, add images, or even embed media, such as videos here. So what I am going to do, however, for the sake of time, is use the AI Design Assistant to automatically generate an assignment. And this is what it looks like. There are two ways in which we can prompt the AI Design Assistant. One of them is by providing a description or a set of keywords. Now, please remember that the more specific your prompt, the more likely it is for the end result to look like what you had in mind in the first place. An alternative is to select course items. So if you have uploaded, if we go to content, if you have uploaded a file with a reading material, or you have created Ultra documents with your content, well, you can select one or more elements and they will be used as a source. In this case, let's say potential, well, let's just say AI in education, which is a trending topic nowadays. Now, as you can see, when you use the AI Design Assistant to generate an assignment, same thing applies to learning journals and discussions, you can select the desired cognitive level. And it uses the four top levels of Bloom's taxonomy of the cognitive domain. Create being the highest order thinking skill. So you have analyze, evaluate, and create, which are at the top of a pyramid, fourth, fifth, and sixth levels, respectively, and apply, which is the second level. The first two, remember and understand, okay, are probably a bit too basic to generate a really good uh, assignment in this case. If you leave it at inspire me, however, it's going to show you a combination of three different levels. You can also adjust the complexity level. It is not tied to cognitive levels. It is actually a tool that allows you to fine-tune your content, in this case assignments, to the level of complexity that you have on your textbook or other source materials. And you can always adjust it afterwards and click on generate just to make sure that it's at the right level. So, for example, if I put it all the way down to low and generate, as you can see, you still have the three different levels, but the prompts or instructions are a bit more simple. Think about how artificial intelligence is present in your life. Can you give examples of when you've seen or used AI? Maybe it's in a game you play, the show you watch, or even your schoolwork. Write a short story to create a comic or create a comic strip that tells you about one of these experiences. Include drawings or photographs that relate to your story. So here they have an option. Well, the usual writing submission or a comic strip for those who express themselves more easily in that format. Now, another option. Imagine you could create your very own AI buddy. What would it look like? What could it do? Write a short story about your AI invention and how it would help you with your daily activities. Or AI around the house. Think about all the things in your house that might use AI. Okay? Write about how these technologies make your life easier or more fun. Now, if we raise the complexity level and generate again, let's give it a moment. Now we're asking them to do something a bit more complex, like exploring the future of learning technologies in an era where artificial intelligence is significantly shaping education. Envision a future classroom that integrates AI technologies. Create an engaging infographic or leaflet that illustrates how AI can enhance personalized learning experiences for students. Or conduct an interview with an educator or a technology expert about the role of artificial intelligence in modern teaching practices. Or imagine you're tasked with developing an AI-enhanced learning module for a specific subject area of your choice. Now, if we turn it all the way up, exploring AI's role in modern education, AI innovations for personalized learning experiences, or imagining the future of educators and AI collaborations. So you could have an essay now, or a comprehensive report, or here a detailed presentation that explains the technology involved. Well, so as you can see, not only can you adjust the complexity level, but you can also choose, okay, between different options so that your students are not always working on the same type of artifacts. Also, you can generate the assignment title, and I'm going to go with this one here, okay? And I will add it. Of course, anything and everything you create or generate using the AI Design Assistant can be edited by you. So it's not written in stone. Let's wait for it to load. Usually it loads really quick, but well, it's Murphy's Law, I guess. Let's just refresh. There it is. So here we have the instructions. And if you want to edit something, all you need to do is click on the little pencil icon. Now you can change the title or the content, add additional elements such as an image or pretty much anything you want. Once you make any changes, just don't forget to save. Then we are going to go and adjust the assignment settings. Details and information. Now, all of this information will, of course, be available to students. The first element is the due date. If you click on the calendar, you can now choose when and what time your students can submit. In this case, it's Friday next week up until the end of the day, 11:59 p.m. However, you also have the option to have no due date at all. Okay, so it is up to you. Then you have the next two options: prohibit late submissions and prohibit new attempts after the due date. If you select this one, the second one or the next one will be selected automatically. So prohibit late submissions means that in-progress attempts will be submitted automatically at the due date and time. So if they open it at 11:59, well, they can still keep working until they finish and submit. This is, however, more often used for tests or timed activities. The second one, prohibit new attempts after the due date, means that students cannot start a new attempt once the due date and time has passed. So this one is probably more appropriate for assignments, while this one is probably more appropriate for tests and maybe discussions as well. Okay, still it is completely up to you. Class conversations. I remember I did mention those on our last session, but basically a class conversation, it looks and works like a discussion. However, it's not gradable. It's not officially a discussion. It is a tool. It's like a space where students can collaborate around the assignment, ask and answer questions. Of course, you can participate as well to offer guidance or answer frequently asked questions. They can share resources, etc. Okay, and it can be very practical because it allows students to collaborate around a specific element. They are also available for other items within your course, such as tests or documents in general. However, I have found that normally they're more useful around content and around assignments because students are likely to have questions. Now, the next option, as you can see here, is not enabled, but anytime an option is not available, Ultra explains to you why. You can't collect submissions offline because prohibited attempts after due date is turned on. If I turn it off, now it is available. When might you do that? Well, as it says here, when students are not going to be submitting something through Learn. Maybe it's something that they're going to present in the classroom or online. Okay, and all you need is a column in the gradebook for you to enter those grades. And unlike simply creating the column directly on the gradebook, you do have all of the other settings and tools available to assignments, such as the ability to use a grading rubric or the ability to align with goals. I'll show you how that works in a moment, or even assign it to groups. For this demo, however, okay, it will be submitted through the platform. So I'm just going to leave it like this. The next question is this assignment formative or summative? Formative basically means that The idea is for students and for you, okay, to check their progress in a rather safe environment in which grades, if provided, will not really affect the overall course grade or score. So this is very good to inform the process and check several times during the course, during the semester, how students are doing so they know what they may want to reinforce or work on. Or also, if you see that many people are struggling a little bit, then perhaps you want to revisit the topic as well. Now, if you check the formative assessment box, this action will not automatically exclude this grade from any grade calculations. You can do that on the gradebook, okay? So when we have a session specifically about the gradebook, I'll show you how that works. And if you want to see it and we have additional time later on today, well, I can show you that as well. Do you want to display the formative label to students? It's usually a good idea to keep them informed of all the details about their work. Then comes the grading and submissions category. The default grade category is assignment, of course. However, okay, you can choose any of the other standard categories available, such as homework, if that's what it is, or maybe it's a presentation and you want them to be able to submit maybe an outline, maybe a slide deck that they're going to use, or a poster that they're going to use to support the presentation, etc. Of course, if you need a different grade category that is not included among the standard ones, which are quiz, presentation, homework, exam, journal, discussion, test, form, assignment, and the no category, then you can create your own custom categories, such as participation and engagements and capstone project, as you can see them here. I'm going to leave it at assignment, though. Sorry. Then, how many attempts should be allowed? By default, it'll be just one. However, you can have as many as you like, from 1 to 10, and then unlimited. So let's say that this is going to be a more demanding assignment, and you would like students to submit 3 times. The first time, it might be the sources that they're going to use and an outline of their work. So they can submit that, and then you can give them feedback based on what they have submitted to you. And then for the second submission, they can give you or send you a first rough draft, and then you give them feedback on that. And the third submission is a final copy. So if that were the case, I would select 3. And now that I have 3 attempts, I need to indicate which one I am going to grade. By default, it'll be the last one. In our example, that would be the final copy. However, if you also want to consider grades for the process and not just the final outcome, then you could select all attempts. Another option is the first one. But here I would say all 3 of them. And then you will need to indicate how the grade will be calculated if you are to consider all 3 attempts. Could be the highest grade, which tends to be popular among students. Other options, the average of the 3, or the lowest of the 3. This is probably not going to be very motivating for students. So let's say the average, because I do want each one of the 3 attempts to count. How do you want to grade? This assignment, by default, it'll be points, and here you have to enter the maximum number of points that students can get. However, it could also be any of the other grade schemas available, such as percentage or letter, which tends to be like the official one, especially for the overall course grade. However, you can also create your own custom grade schemas as well. I'm going to leave it at points. Should grading be anonymous? Okay. Sometimes some institutions have this policy, which basically means that while grading, you will have no access to the student's identity. This could be done to minimize the risk of any bias, or maybe just because it's a policy of the institution. However, as you can see here, it is not available. And it is not available because class conversations have been activated. If I disable class conversations, because this could give you clues about the participant's identity, then, okay, I could have anonymous grading. Then, among evaluation options, we have three different elements. One is to have 2 graders per student. Again, this is sometimes a policy or a requirement for some courses, programs, or institutions. If you're going to have 2 graders per student, then you want to assign them. And to be able to do that, you have to have users in your course with that role, grader. So you can have up to 2 graders per student's work. And then the reconciler by default will be the main instructor. However, you can also have additional reconcilers should there be a difference between both grades that were assigned to the student in the first place. You can also enable peer review. However, here it's not available because you can't turn it on for an assessment with multiple attempts. It's only available for assessments with one attempt because the peers need to know which one of the 3 attempts to focus on. So if I switch this to one attempt only, now I still cannot turn it on, but again, it tells me why. You can't turn on peer review when prohibit late attempts or prohibit late attempts after the due date is turned on. And the reason for that is that now you're going to have 2 due dates, one for submissions and one for the peer review. So let me turn this off. And now I can enable peer review. Now, of course, we have a few settings to choose from. So click on select peer settings. And now you can decide how many peers will be reviewing your students' work. By default, it is 3. Could be a little overwhelming sometimes for students. Personally, when I use this, I use 2, but then again, that depends on you and your specific context and requirements. So in student view, names don't appear on submissions and reviews. Okay, late reviews are accepted. So students will be able to review their classmates' submissions, but they will not know whose submission they are reviewing. Okay. This is why we cannot disable or prohibit late submissions, because we need to enter or set a secondary date. Let's give them an additional week. Okay, during which they can still review their classmates' submission. Okay, I am going to cancel this one, but I did want to show it to you. This would have been great Back 30 years ago, when I was teaching writing academic English in Peru, English as a foreign language, and I had a lot of peer review going on back then. Okay, so I'm going to turn off peer review so that I can now enable the prohibit new attempts. Once again, based on your needs and preferences, you can choose the best combination of settings. But as you can see, it is really very flexible. Okay, now assessment grade, should it be posted automatically? For tests, this setting, the default for this setting is on. That means as soon as the students submit the test, and then as soon as it is graded, sometimes automatically, if it doesn't have any essay questions that need manual grading, and sometimes if you have at least one essay question that requires manual grading, as soon as a grade is available, students will be able to see it. However, for everything else in your course, assignments, graded discussions, graded journals, and the like, grades are not posted automatically. The idea here is that once you're done grading everything and writing your feedback, etc., then you can post all grades at once. But then again, it is completely up to you. So I'm not going to turn it on so I can show you how that works. Assessment security. Let's say you want to have additional control over who can access the assignments. Maybe it is an assignment, but they'll be working on campus at one of the computer labs, okay, etc. Then you can generate an access code, which is basically a password, which is randomly generated. You can click on this icon to view it, on this one to copy it, and then paste it and send it to your students in a message or an email. Or if you want, at any time, you can refresh the code. So anybody with a previous password or access code can no longer access, okay? I'm not really going to use it for this one, but then again, okay, that is yet another tool that you have at your disposal. You could also restrict the location, okay, so that students can only submit or connect from a specific place or group of places. This is particularly useful for on-site assessments. However, you do need to coordinate with your IT department or system administrator, okay, because they need to configure the IP addresses. Additional tools. One of them is a time limit. It basically creates a timer, and this is more appropriate for tests, quizzes, exams, etc. Usually not needed for an assignment, as students are likely to have a considerable additional amount of time to work. Do you want to use a grading rubric? My recommendation would be yes, of course. So let us do that. You can choose any of the existing rubrics or create one from scratch, for which all you need to do is click on Create. And now you enter the name, select the type of rubric that you want to use. Could be percentage, percentage range, points, point range, or no points if it's formative. And you're not really going to have a grade, but you do want to be able to better manage expectations and requirements by using a rubric. And then you get 4 criteria, but you can add as many as you want. And of course, you can delete, okay, any of them. All you need to do is click on the little trash can icon. And to edit anything, just click on the corresponding pencil icon. So you can change the name of the criteria. You can change the weight of individual criteria. And of course, you can change the headers and the internal weights of the different levels within each criterion. And of course, and this one is very important, provide a description. Alternatively, you can use the AI Design Assistant to generate one. What I would normally do here is on the description, in the description box, I would paste the instructions for students. Then select the rubric type. Personally, I like to go with percentage, as percentage ranges can be ranges in general, I try to stay away from personally because then, I mean, you don't have a rubric within the rubric, and I like to keep it as objective as possible. But of course, you have percentage, percentage range, points, or points range to choose from. Again, complexity level, you can switch this several times until the complexity level of the different criteria and expectations match those of your instructions. So I'm going to go with high. You can generate up to 5 columns, and you can generate up to 7 rows. Advanced options gives you the ability to switch the output language. So if you're teaching a foreign language class, that would be very useful. And then I'm going to click on generate. You can generate as many times as you want, changing the different settings. One thing you will notice from the start, however, is that it does a very good job at generating rubrics. Literally, I mean, you can edit and optimize, improve things in the next step, but it does save you a lot of time. And these rubrics are very specific to the task. That's another one I really like. Of course, however, this is auto-generated content and it needs to be checked for accuracy and bias. Let's take a look at our criteria here. Depth of analysis, use of empirical evidence, quality of infographics, integration of qualitative data, clarity and structure of the report, engagement with current literature, and reference quality and format. And as you can see, it is easy to distinguish between the different levels for each criterion here. So exemplary would be extensive use of empirical evidence with clear relevance to the topic, demonstrating strong support for claims made, whereas proficient would be an adequate use of empirical evidence that supports claims, though some sources might lack relevance or recentness. Well, that is sometimes an issue as well. Some sources may not be that up to date, and when it comes to AI, well, you don't want it to be up to date. So if this looks like what you intended, click on continue. If not, adjust maybe the complexity level and generate again. And in this step, you can now edit anything you want. Simply click on the pencil. Okay, you can pretty much edit anything you want. A, I. Okay, give it a name that you can easily recognize. And from here, you can now align your goals with the different criteria. All you need to do, okay, you could do it, you could align goals with the assignment itself. However, if you're using a rubric, different criteria are likely to be measuring different things. So maybe for the first one, just click on, oh, you need to save the rubric first. Now select, okay, the goal set you want to use. I know these are not necessarily related to the topic. It's just a functional demo. So I'm going to align the first criterion with these two. And let's say this criterion is not really aligned with anything, but this one is. Yeah, you can align with multiple criteria or just one. Here you will get the details of what is being aligned. And one more. Let's say this one here. And submit. Okay, we are ready. AI Innovations demo. The alignments have been made. And well, I don't need to save anything because I saved it the last time. So I can simply close it. And now, okay, this is the last step, and it's very important. You want to add the rubric to your assignment. Okay, it's right here, aligned with 5 goals. If you want to see the details, just click on that link and it'll show you, okay, these are aligned with the rubric. It gives you or tells you which criterion it is, which goal has been category and specific goal or goals have been aligned as well. Let's see, however, we have a few more options. We keep scrolling down. Goals and standards. Again, as I mentioned earlier, you could do the alignment with the assignment, but if you're using a rubric, this is going to give you a much more accurate picture. You could assign it to groups, and you can, of course, also enable the Safe Assign Originality report. When you do that, you may want to also allow students to view the Safe Assign Originality report for their attempts. Now, everything when Safe Assign is enabled, it is going to compare students' work with contents from several databases, specialized databases, and content available on the internet. If you want to see more information, just click on Show More. Okay. But also, a copy of this assignment or this submission will be included in the institutional database, which means that if a student is trying to quote unquote recycle in whole or in part something that was previously submitted by someone else, it will also raise a flag there. Okay, don't forget to save your settings. Oh, by the way, okay, I just want to emphasize this. It's usually a good idea to allow students to view the originality report for their submissions. Because sometimes they simply were not aware of the fact that, well, maybe they were unintentionally engaging in plagiarism because they did not cite properly or they did not paraphrase as they should have, etc. So it's information that is good to have. When all of your settings are complete, you probably want to add a description. I also mentioned this on the previous session. Remember, providing a description for the different elements within your course is probably going to make it easier for people to navigate your course, to find their way around, because they will know what the different things do, contain, link to, test, involve, etc., without having to first click on them. So you have all these visual cues on the screen. So here I'm just going to go with description. Okay, that's it. Don't forget to save. Now you decide when this should be released to students. You have 2 additional tabs that once students begin submitting, you can see how many are missing, how many have been submitted, how many need grading, how many grades need posting, etc. It also tells you in this case that the last attempt is the grade that's actually going to count. And well, we don't have any submissions yet, but we will simulate one in a moment. And then you get a student activity report. You get an overview, okay, of the grades, how much time it's taken each student to open the assignment, how much time before the due date it's been submitted, the submission activity, grade distribution, and after the overview or beneath the overview, you have individual student activity details. So let's go back to content and settings, and I will make it visible to students. AI innovations, it's right here in our sample module. And now let's switch to one of our students. Let me refresh this. Let's go to our sample module. Here we have our AI innovations for personalized learning experiences, due date, okay, no restrictions since no release conditions have been set, and the description here. All they need to do is click. They can see the contents for this module, or they can hide the index, and they get all the information they need here. Description, details about the submission, under assessment details, they can click here to view the rubric. So even before they open it, they can see specifically which criteria will be used and what their work should look like in order for them to get the highest possible score. Once they finish doing that, they can see which goals and standards have been aligned. They can click here to view the detail. Aligned with the rubric, as you can see, information is everywhere. There are no surprises for your students. Additional information, originality report, safe assign has been enabled. Here, maximum number of points. Oops. Okay. Sorry. My browser is a little slow today for some reason. Maximum number of points, 100, and how many attempts they have left. In this case, I set it, in the end, I set it to just one. View instructions. This has been updated. In the past, it used to say begin submission, but some faculty members thought it was a bit misleading. So just to make sure that everybody feels safe about viewing the instructions. Okay. So they can see the instructions here. They will load in a moment. There they are. Then here is where they can drag and drop their submission. They could type it in as well, but the usual approach is just to drag and drop it or click on attachment and then look for the file. And you have all the details and information, assessment due date and time, goals and standards that have been aligned, attempts, grading rubric, originality report, and grading. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a sample file. Not exactly what they're asking me for in this specific assignment, but just to give you an idea. Here I have a PDF file with about the potential of artificial intelligence. I will use that. Just drag and drop. That's all your students need to do. Normally, what I like to do is I like to make sure the name is or title is as meaningful as possible, so I get rid of any suffixes or prefixes. Okay, and you save. And it is always, I mean, it's not mandatory, but it is a good idea for students to wait until their work, especially if it's a document. Sorry about the Spanish text here, but my browser knows where my geographical location right now, so it assumes that I'm using Spanish. And as you can see, they could add text or contents or comments, whatever here directly. And if you have been using Learn Original, you will be able and happy to recognize this. Okay, it's the exact same interface that is used in Original, both for the instructor and the student. So it is a recommended practice, especially if your students are in a location where they do not have a highly reliable internet connection, just to make sure that the file made it through. Okay, they don't have to, as I said. As soon as a submit button or icon becomes active, they can submit, but it's just to play it safe. You want to make sure that the whole thing was properly uploaded and processed. And then they could save and close, in which case a draft will be saved. Now, for drafts, for both assignments and tests, you, the instructor, will know that a draft has been saved, but you will not have access to the contents of a draft. In order for you to be able to see what the student has produced or uploaded, it has to be submitted. It has to be, which means that it is in its final form. Submit, confirm, and students get, okay, receipt, okay, including a confirmation number here. They can download it and save it for their records. However, they don't really have to because they will also get an email with this information. And I find the confirmation number especially useful when you have multiple submissions for an assignment or a test. Because the receipt number or confirmation number is unique to each attempt. So if you have two different attempts for a test or an assignment, each time the student submits, they will get a different, unique confirmation number. So if they have a question or a comment or a discrepancy about their grades, or your feedback, etc., they can share this with you. There is a box in the gradebook, okay, on the grades view, where you can paste this code and it'll take you directly to this attempt. So, okay, the student can now view their submission, but of course it hasn't been graded yet. So they can only see the file or files they have sent. Okay, so here I have the instructions. Here I have what I submitted. Hasn't been graded yet. Now, don't panic about the high risk 100% match because I had already used this very same document for another demo. But as you can see, it's quite accurate. It immediately detects that, okay, this has already been used. If they want more details, they can click on okay, they can hover over this. The text in this attempt was likely copied from other sources because it includes excessive quoted or paraphrased material. Review the attempt for plagiarism. Okay. And you can, of course, go to the specific report. No? And so can students, as in this case. And of course, all of it was taken from another submission. Okay, so I can see the rubric, but of course, no grades have been recorded yet. Let me now show you what the grading process looks like. So as an instructor, okay, let's refresh this. There are two new items on the gradebook that need your attention. If you see a number, that's a number of items that need grading. If instead of a number you see an exclamation mark, then it means that all submissions have been graded, but not all grades have been posted. Posting a grade means making it visible to students and available to the system. So if I go to the gradebook, that's one way. On the overview, I'm going to see what needs grading. And I can click here and it'll take me to the student's attempt. Another way to do it could be from within the assignment. I see that I have a new submission. But of course, it's more practical. It's easier if you do it from here, because here you have a panoramic view of everything that needs your attention. This one I'm going to grade now. Once again, if you have been using Learn Original, you will be happy to be able to recognize this. It's exactly the same tool that is used in Original. Okay, now in this case, the student, Ringo Starr, submitted a PDF file. But of course, if you start writing your comments here, okay, adding text maybe for your feedback, or drawing things, or highlighting things manually, as you have been doing all this time. If you click here, you can print it, including your comments and notes, etc. If you click here within the black area, you can download it. You download a PDF version with all your comments and feedback, etc. However, if what you want to download is the original student submission, because sometimes it is the case that students are asked to submit a Word document because the instructor prefers to provide their feedback and write their comments directly on the Word document. In that case, it's easy to be able to provide specific feedback for specific segments of a text, and you can control the different versions and who wrote what, etc. So if you want to do that, you want to download using this icon up here on the right. Download the original file. It will not include any comments or feedback or highlights, etc., or notes. Or if what you want to download is PDF version, PDF rendering of a file that was submitted by students, well, this is where you want to click. From the gradebook, from the grades view of the gradebook, you can download all the original files at once also. So if we have time, please remind me to show you how that works in a moment. So, okay. I can provide my feedback here. So once I read this and write my comments, I could write it or I could record it as video. Let's do that. Hopefully my camera is working just fine right now. Hello again. Well, having a bad hair day, looks like. Okay, so this very same tool is available for announcements, but I really like to have the ability to record my feedback to my students as a video. All you need to do is turn on the camera, start the recording. You have 3 seconds to get ready, and now you have up to 5 minutes to record your feedback. You can pause at any time, go over your notes, drink a sip from your coffee maybe, and continue. You get the same 3 seconds to get ready. Okay, and you continue until either you finish or you run out of your 5 minutes, whichever happens first. Stop when you're ready. It'll process the recording. Too long with this browser for some reason, but usually it's done like almost right away, and then you can view it, and if you like it, then you can go ahead and save and exit and move on. Closed captions will be generated automatically. Or if you don't like it, you can delete that recording and start again. This is taking too long. And it's basically, I suspect, because I'm using Zoom, which kind of hijacks some of the controllers by the camera. But this happens in just a matter of seconds, as you will be. I don't want to wait until it's ready. So I'm just going to write something generic here. Okay. Now, in this case, you have overall feedback. But if it were a group assignment, you would have the ability to provide both overall feedback for the whole group and individual feedback for individual group members. And here I have my grading rubric. I can show the descriptions if I want to. However, okay, you can also click on this icon to the right of grading rubric to detach it. Okay. Oh, I want to save my feedback first. Sorry. To detach your rubric, so you can see it in full screen. Okay, it shows you the beginning of the description for each level, but you can click here to show full descriptions, provided they are rather long. And then here you can proceed to grade students or grade each criterion based on the descriptions. Now, I showed you how to provide overall feedback. However, it is also, if you're using a rubric, it is also possible to provide criterion-specific feedback. Like here, it was a bit low. So this is a feedback icon. And in this case, you can't record it as video, not within a rubric. So the structure of your report, and you give them feedback that is as meaningful as possible, of course. Once you're ready, okay, this is going to, if you provide feedback, then you need to save it. And then you can safely close it. The grade is here. We don't have any additional submissions. If I did, other students would appear here, and then I could navigate to the next. You can see everything here has been covered. There's feedback for this criterion. That's why this icon has changed, both color and its look. Okay, so here, if you hover over the eye, okay, it shows you what the grade pills are conveying. And remember, in Ultra, every time you click on the three dots, it shows you what additional options there are. You could post the grade, thus making it visible to the student. You could overwrite the final grade. Okay. You could exclude this attempt, which means it would remain there. It'll be visible, but not used for grade calculations. Or you could delete it if maybe they submitted the wrong file by mistake, for example. I'm going to go ahead and post it. Okay. As you can see, well, it doesn't need posting because I did already, and it's only this one now that needs grading. Now, let me show you what it will look like to the student. Now that it has been posted, so the student can see all the details. Now, if they click on View Submission, okay, they can see the specific grade and they got in each criterion, and also, okay, the description for that specific level. And if criterion feedback is provided, okay, it will also appear here. It will say criterion feedback, it'll show them the icon, and then it'll show them the actual feedback that was provided. Now, on this example, as you may remember, I made the alignments, okay, of the goals, the different goals with different with different criteria within the gradebook. So if as a student, I click on gradebook, I can see my grades, of course. Okay. But if enabled by my institution, I can also see how my goals are doing. So it tells me what goals have been graded so far, what I got, where they were graded. Here I have two different assignments, and it shows me what I get within the specific criterion. So this is not, remember, not aligned with the whole assignment, but out of the points available for that criterion within the rubric, okay, this is what I get. And they can get a rather detailed report. So I know, aha, so here, analyze and compare alternative solutions. Okay, so for that one, which is, okay, which is learning outcome 3 in this case. Okay, well, I'm still not that bad, but that is just because I kind of increased or improved my grade on this other element. Foundational, okay, I may be a little worried about this one. Yes, I definitely want to work on this one, work effectively in teams to design and implement, etc. That's learning outcome 5 in this case. So this is the level of detail that's available to students. Okay, when goals are being used and alignments are made as you grade your students' work. And for the instructor, spoiler alert on the gradebook session here. If you click if it has been enabled by your institution, if you go to mastery, then you can see how your students are doing, okay, in terms of the different goals that have been aligned. This is an overview. Here you will see all of your students, of course. But then if you focus on a specific student, okay, you can check their goals just as they would. So you get a high level of detail here. Okay, we have a little over 10 minutes left. So do you have any questions, or is there anything from this session or the previous sessions that you would like me to demo or explain?
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Hi.
Let me my camera again.
Yeah. Um, so I'm just curious because, you've talked a lot about how AI can assist with creating different things, and um, I'm having sort of the opposite challenge because I teach literature courses and there's a lot of writing, and I'm having a difficulty because a lot of my students are submitting things that are quite evidently AI generated. And I'm just wondering if there's anything in the new Ultra that helps, like with detecting, because I know you have the thing where you can detect if something's plagiarized or whatever, but what about with AI generated content?
They're working on it, not just Learn, but
Hmm.
not just Blackboard, but all the providers.
Right.
It is a little bit like it was, a long time ago when like speed detectors were started being used by the highway patrol, and then they invented speed detectors and stuff like that. So it's a rapidly evolving field, and they're working on it. However, I mean, I am using Ultra as an instructor because I'm teaching an English as a foreign language course at a Peruvian university in the evenings online. And what I do is I try to make sure to ask students to work on tasks that relate a lot to their own personal experience. So in that way, I mean, they would have to prompt the AI extensively to be able to come up. I mean, not something Like, tell me a story about this or that with these characters because I mean, like Grok or ChatGPT could probably get away with that real fast. But in this case, what I do is I try to make them relate to or use personal examples, etc. Another way, okay, I know it's not the same topic, but one tool that I am in love with really is AI conversations because in that way, why is this so slow today? Well, when you create an AI conversation, basically there are two types, two flavors, if you will. So they could be Socratic questioning, follow-up question after follow-up question after follow-up question, or role play. And in role play, you may want to have your students generate an AI persona that will, which could be a critic, could be a reporter, could be a friend, who will then ask the student to explain and provide examples and support what he wrote on his essay or in his story, maybe. So here you're using the AI tool the other way around, not to do the work for your students, but to actually poke your students' brains. So there are many possibilities here. So okay, talk to the AI persona, and you could set your AI persona to be an assistant professor, asking them to explain how they came up with the idea for their story, for example. You should see their faces. I mean, they like it, but they go like, "Huh, all right, you got me there." So I've tried it; it works.
Hmm.
So okay,
Okay.
I even generated an AI persona that would help them review basic grammar rules and stuff like that. So you may want to explore it. There's lots and lots of potential uses for this. Doesn't have to be a lot. Maybe two or three interactions with the AI persona, explaining how they came up with the story or the plot, or if there was a plot twist, to explain it or something like that. So I know it's not specifically assignment related, but it's a pretty good companion. Another thing is this could be the AI persona role play is good for them to explain maybe to someone what they did and how they came up with it. But then the other version, the Socratic questioning, because you give them an initial question and then they have to answer that question. And then the AI persona, which, I mean, you can set what their attitude, personality, context, role is, etc. Okay, you can be as specific as you want. And then you can have the AI persona ask a series of follow-up questions deeper and deeper each time. So effectively, you are helping them prepare for an assignment because this is brainstorming with an assistant, basically. So my students' level of English is not that advanced yet, but I do plan to use it when I get a more advanced course. So I would use Socratic questioning to help them brainstorm and come up with ideas and think more and more and deeper about the topic. And then the role play to explain uh, the their final product. And now AI is working for you, not against you. Give it a try and tell me how it goes. Okay, we have 5 more minutes. Any other questions or comments? Just one thing, please do not forget that grades need to be posted in order for students to be able to see their submission, which includes not just a grade, but also your feedback. Tara, do you have any questions or would you like to add something?
Um, I don't have any questions, but I mean, if nobody else has any questions, then I think it's good we end here then.
Okay, well, very good. Uh, Thank you very much. Okay, and well, I certainly hope to see you in our next session.
Thank you so much.
Remember, if you have any questions about this or any